Hey, welcome back to the Compliance Clip podcast with your co-hosts, Rick Morgan and John Farquhar. And today we're going to talk about AI. And it's not like apples and indigo. It's about artificial intelligence. And this is a neat topic because I'm just starting to dabble in it. I don't know a lot. So, Rick, I'm hoping your guest is going to help us out a lot here. So, let's introduce Iris St Jacques. Iris, tell us about yourself.
Hey, thank you, John. It's great to be here. So I have been doing AI research and leading AI teams for almost 15 years, AI and analytics work. It's a very fascinating field where there's a lot of interest, but in one of my recent workshops, I actually realized that for the first time in human history, using this technology is not about technical skills, but about some fundamental thinking skills and people skills. So this human level thinking and meta skills, if you will, is what I think a lot of the talks in AI are missing. So I think we can take this discussion on AI to another level to really help people navigate it better.
Wow. Wow. Well, and interesting enough here, I'm going to refer to my co-host, Mr. Morgan, because AI is not just a young person's tool. It's the old folks that can use it too. And I know Mr. Morgan uses it quite a lot to the point where I hear him from here. I hear him over there with the frustrations he has with it. So, let's kind of dig in and learn a little more. So I'm going to pass it over to you, Mr. Morgan, because I want to sit back in the audience and hear all about this fun stuff.
Thanks, John. Iris, welcome aboard. Great to see you again. The Iris used to work with me a long time ago, and when I first met with Iris, AI didn't exist, and I would go to her and I say, I have this challenge I need you to do. You think you could do it in Excel? And she'd kind of look at me and smile and grin and go away and come back a day later with an Excel program formula that was about 38 pages long. So I'm not surprised that she decided to get into AI and is playing a leadership role. She also touched on something which may explain why I frequently use four-letter words when conversing with the AI on my desktop, which is that you need soft people skills and metadata, both of which I've been told might be a little bit lacking in my particular skill set. However, I'm working on it. So, Iris, we're going to just get right into the meat and potatoes here. The last compliance clips we had on, we had as our guest Doug Marcello, the transportation lawyer. And there were two elements that we talked about in that interview that I think we can kind of start our conversation off with. The first one is just more a theoretical exploration because it's not really directly applicable at the moment to our audience. And that's the concept of using AI to establish defense practices and a objective standard in the courtroom. Based on where you are right now, what do you think of that as an approach for developing an objective and standardized response to things which historically have been subjective and caused quite a few problems for the industry?
For sure. I know it's a hypothetical scenario of AI-generated materials ending up in court, but when we really think about the litigation life cycles, so sometimes materials can take years between generation and being used in court, right? Whether it's generated by humans or with the help of certain tools, and in this case, AI. So realistically speaking, materials that's being generated today, and we have to assume that a lot of it is with the assistance of AI will end up in court. So it's not a scenario that we have to that will be only hypothetical for the years to come. I think this is a real problem we have to think about now. So in order to answer this question, I want to ask a seemingly facetious question back, which is, how would we deal with junior intern generated materials ending up in courts? You don't have to answer this question. I ask it because I want to change the frame of how we think about AI. So there's one fundamental problem with AI, which is that it thinks and talks in ways that are fundamentally different from humans, but mimicking humans in a lot of ways, which means we're not able to empathize with its thinking process. So that means we flatten our perception of it and we flatten our attitudes towards it. Okay, I don't like using big words and these abstract concepts. So what that really means is that people tend to go to extremes when it comes to treating AI. We tend to think some people think that it's competent, and some people might think it's really useless when we see it making mistakes that humans wouldn't make. But when you think about the advantages of AI, things that AI does well that humans potentially will never be able to do, and also mistakes that AI makes that we can never imagine humans make, even junior interns. There's one fundamental leadership skill that we are forgetting about, which is if we treat AI not as a tool, but as a thinking, almost like a new hire, a very peculiar new hire that we have to manage, then we need to understand its strengths and weaknesses, even though that's wildly different from any new hire we've ever had before, and then use it to its advantage and delegate accordingly. But also avoid situations where we put AI, so the strange new hire, on tasks that it's not suitable for, right? So that's a long-winded way of saying that when we look at AI, it's good at things like doing research, pulling a lot of information in from all the books it has read, if you will, that humans won't have time to read, but it also doesn't have thinking capabilities to effectively fact check. So knowing its strengths and weaknesses compared to our human team members, we know that this strange new hire cannot be trusted with only any final output, which means, so now this is where I will bring back to my initial facetious question of how we should treat junior intern generated materials in courts, which is it should never happen. It should never happen in its original form, without supervisory, without proper approval and even peer reviews in high-stakes situations. So any kind of materials generated by our peculiar new hire AI team member should be vetted by experts, just like how you would always vet junior intern generated materials before it might end up in court.
Excellent answer. I can see John going, wow. And I can also, like as you're walking through this, I'm replaying in my head one of my more frustrating recent experiences. And you're 100% right when it comes to the ability to go out there and find the information. Like, I want this, and you will instantaneously get these results. And once you've taught it how to not make things up, and you validate that those links are there, it's incredibly useful. And I think you're 100% right. And I'm going somewhere with this train of thought. I was working on a big project. I was actually working on putting together a manual, and I worked with the program to do the research, pull all the information together. It did a fantastic job. And then I said to it, this is the goal that I want you to realize from this information. And I want you to set the guardrails for yourself so that we can get there. Because once you've started to work with AI, you will note that it does really funny things. Like, you know, you answer one question, and being a human being, you're like, okay, we got here, let's refine it. If you don't tell it to refine, or you don't give it the right parameters, it doesn't deal that as a subsequent, it deals that as a new and unique. And the next thing you know, you've experienced this thing called drift, which is AI's way of saying, oh, I'm not talking about that anymore. I didn't realize we were still doing that. It's like, dude, you're in the same thread. Go look at the top. So anyway, the point is, I had the program write a set of guardrails and guidelines based on the information we compiled and where we wanted to go. And I said, okay, go. And it created garbage.
Yeah, it might be helpful for us to think a little bit about how AI works, not in technical terms, but just peek under the hood to see why the drift might happen. And so us humans, we maintain our mental models, right? Basically, it's how we understand the world, how the world works. So when we talk to others, we don't just talk in words. We hear words, and then we convert that into some thoughts, and then generate some new thoughts and convert that into words, and that's how conversations go. So those who have looked into how AI works, specifically large language models, might know that all that large language models have are words. It's, mind you, it's a lot of words, a lot more texts than any human will ever be able to ingest and process. But there's no thinking, there are no thoughts, and there are no mental models to understand the world, or even real memory. It only has strings of texts, and all that it's trying to do is to predict the most likely next set of words coming up. It might sound a little bit scary, but that's a good thing if that sounds a little bit scary, because you should never give high-stakes situations or tasks to someone or something that only thinks in words and no thoughts, right? And I think, Rick, you also pointed out something that's nuanced but very important to keep in mind, which is that the older parts of the conversation will get forgotten over time, because there are some math working behind the scenes, and the math will say deprioritize older parts of the conversation. That's part of why drift happens as conversations go on, but there's also this what's called controlled randomness to add variabilities to the conversations, so that if you ask the same questions with exactly the same wording, you don't always get exactly the same worded answers. So, yes. But then this controlled randomness or variability also means that you get drift over time, because it doesn't really know where to create variability, in which ways it's reliable, and in which ways it's not. So that will add up. And I don't think I need to explain the risks in terms of compliance, and you guys know much better than I do. But the drift in itself, while it's an issue, it's actually not the deepest issue. It's not the root issue that we need to think about. The problem is that, so humans have what's called the halo effect. We look at something that looks good, we assume that it's competent or it's well put together. So when it comes to the answers provided by AI, and Rick, I actually don't think this is an issue you're encountering per se, but what a lot of people might experience is that they will look at polished or confident sounding answers and assume that it's well put together. So then intuitively we let our guard down, and we allow these subtle drifts happen over time, and they add up. So I mention all of that because there is a layer of almost like self-imposed checkpoints that we need to make sure that happens when we vet AI's answers. And I have personally done this many times, similar to Rick, what you have said, which is to remind AI that it needs to verify its own answers to check whether it has drifts in its tone, in the positions it's posing, and in the details it's putting together. That does help, but that doesn't replace the kind of verification that humans should do. So I have to remind myself as well, and also my team members, that when we look at AI generated answers, even though it will look and sound a lot more polished and confident than some junior interns that we might hire out of college, it sometimes is no better than the work that they have produced. So then we have to make two decisions. One, is this work right for AI or this junior intern, if you will? And two, if we decide that they can save us some time, what additional work is it creating for us so that we can ensure that the final results are good? So these are things that that are not quite intuitive to us when it comes to using tools, because tools are typically deterministic. Tools are typically not creative or probabilistic in nature. So this is a shift in our thinking process and our intuition when it comes to using this new tool.
Excellent. And the reason I'm not experiencing some of those problems now is I experienced them months ago, and I can tell you I learned from not checking my own work, because you read it and you go, wow, this is great, right? And then you post it and someone says, hey, that's the wrong reference, right? I actually had that do in one of my posts where I was dealing with one specific element. It quoted the FCR. The 49 FCR, it quoted the regulations, it quoted the appropriate section of the regulations, but it quoted the inappropriate subsection, and I didn't bother to check it. And then there's this funny thing called AI hallucinations, which, I like to laughingly say is AI on acid, because it just invents stuff. It's like, you click on the link and it's like, dude, that's a 404. Or, you'll read it and you go, I have no idea where you got this from. And why am I saying all this? Because one of the things that you and I and John were actually referencing before, and what is happening, what is going to be happening in our industry, I can absolutely guarantee it, is the C-suite is going to be looking down the pipe, and they're going to be seeing their junior staff, and they're going to say, I want you to use AI to create a new policy book. I want you to use AI to create our new SOPs. I want you to use AI to create the training. I want you to use AI to create our due diligence documents. And you're going to upload old source material. You're going to tell it to go out, and you're going to tell it to find it. You're going to quiz it, list all this information, and it's going to look fabulous. 90% of it is going to be right. And then you're going to say, okay, now give me the training SOP. Or, okay, now give me the due diligence document. And this is something that you're hoping to use in court. And when it gets to court and the lawyer looks at it, he goes, but this isn't reflective of real life. Like, this quote is made up. This is a 404 link. So it's interesting that you and I, we are kind of on similar approaches, but I think we have one material difference. I still look at AI, and you can't convince me any other way, is nothing more than a tool. It is a tool, and sometimes it's a real tool, like you don't. And sometimes it's a productivity tool where it's like, oh, thank you. This would have taken me 2 hours to compose. Now it's going to take me 1 hour to go in, verify, edit, and redo. And one of the things that I have noticed, and I know you've noticed, is once you start working with AI a lot, you can identify an AI written document within 3-4 minutes, if that. I mean, some text I can identify it in opening 3 sentences in a paragraph, just because of the format and the way it structures things. Even when you tell it not to use that cadence, not to use that framing, it falls back onto its defaults. So where am I going with all of this? What advice can you give both the C-suite and those administrators on how to use this tool to realize their goals and how to temper their expectations of what it's really going to do? Because, we hear a certain individual who makes more money in a second than I've made in my whole life say that it's going to replace all workers within 20 years. And call me crazy, but I was there when we introduced computers and they said they were going to get rid of paper. And yo, go to any office, dude. Didn't happen.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on that? What can we tell the C-suite and the administrators that you're going to be able to do, you're going to have to do, and what you have to realistically expect?
Yeah, so when I say we can treat AI in some ways as a new team member, I actually don't think it's so that in itself is not the main point. The reason why I use that framing is because I have noticed that some people have expectations for AI that are just not real. They expect confident sounding answers to be very reliable, for example. So I try to frame it in the way to help people understand the variable nature of AI generated content, similar to how we can't fully just or blindly trust anything that's produced by a junior team member or a senior team member for that matter. But in your case, I think you actually understand it much better than a lot of people I have trained and worked with. So I don't think it's that important to think of AI as to humanize AI or think of it as tools. The most important part is to understand its strengths and weaknesses and tailor our interactions with it accordingly. Now, when it comes to C-suites working with for example, their analysts and asking them to use AI to create certain training manuals and documentation, it actually poses another kind of challenge, which is so I'll go back to my original analogy, which is that there are similarities between managing an intern versus managing an AI team member. The reason why I go back to this analogy is because, so I used to work in consulting, and if you have worked in consulting long enough, you develop this habit of always verifying everything that's handed to you, or you should anyways. And when you develop this habit, and you start using AI tools, this habit doesn't go away. So in a way, I do think of it as a leadership habit where you get work handed to you and you don't let it pass you until you have verified it and taken full ownership of this work. But when C-suites ask an analyst to do this work, a lot of people who haven't gone far enough in their careers to work on or work at leadership roles don't have this intuition that they have built over the years. So when they get a new tool, this blind trust happens very easily. And it will come with training and a lot of and by training, I don't just mean taking courses and workshops. I mean, some of it will be learning the hard way. And mistakes will be made. Mistakes have already been made. And high stakes situations, including in courts, have seen mistakes made in in very bad ways. And unfortunately, that's part of the learning as well. So I'm putting together some materials on the realistically speaking, what are the strengths and weaknesses of human workers versus AI tools and how they can work together. And it can take hours or days to really go through the specific details, but you don't have to know all of that. Because every use case is different. So for example, when it comes to writing training manuals, we know that a junior team member, so for example, you're asking an analyst to write such material. One of the biggest pain points we previously had in asking an analyst in writing this material is that they have limited experiences, which means they have limited knowledge in what aspects to cover. So then you can ask them, instead of writing the full final document with AI, ask them to do the brainstorming in the high level sections that they need to cover first. So this requires a little bit of coaching from the C-suite to the analyst as well, right? In terms of how to break down this task or this problem into specific tasks and how to sequence it based on the strengths and weaknesses of this AI tool that's relatively new to us. Because when we think about, sure, there's a lot of discussions around AI and the need for human supervision and verification. But I do want to remind everyone that verification of someone else's work was always needed. And somehow we somehow think because we have this powerful tool, the need for verification has gone down. That's actually not true. So it's the speed of verification we need to do has increased, but the need for verification has not gone down. So in a way, it has become more demanding of us in using our judgment and not less.
So to draw an analogy, if I can, just as my last commentary on this one, what I'm actually hearing from you is there's a comparable degree of AI use that we saw and see in coding. Is you have to know what to put into your code if you want to get the result out of your program after. And I know you've done coding in your life, so I'm probably speaking to something you're familiar with. And one of the things when we create code is we play in the sandbox and we test it to make sure that what we wrote in the code, when it's given the prompt in, will generate the desired output. And in AI, we've got the same thing. If AI has got the preconceived code, but you're giving it the direction. And if you're not giving it the correct input, if you give a wrong keystroke or you introduce a wrong concept or you say the wrong thing, or even if your thinking frame doesn't matter, its processing frame, what you getting out is not what you want.
Yep.
John, with that, because I know you've started working with AI. Is there anything that you would like to ask our very knowledgeable and wonderful guest?
Well, I guess from an experience approach and being a newbie, I'll call myself, in the AI world, you know what? For me to put information in and say digest this in a certain way, it's only using that information. But when I'm asking it to go teach me something or whatnot, I've realized after listening to you, Rick, and some of the frustrations you have, you can't take it out of there for what it is for gospel. It's just not going to be 100%. And I guess that's what that concern worries me for new people in the industry working in safety fields or training operators and whatnot within the transportation industry who might go, oh, I'll just use AI. It'll give me what I want. It's like, just very good chance it's not going to give you what you want. It might give you a high level, and if you take that for gospel, you're just going to put yourself into a bigger hole. So you really need to pay attention. Listening to you guys talk about this, you got to know what you want out of this. And then you have to verify that what you got is what you should have got. And I think too many people are quick to go, oh, look what AI spent up for me. Oh, I'll just take this and go, right? Without verifying it. And so, as you were saying, Iris, when we're dealing with the C-suite, you could be giving something to the C-suite that is totally incorrect. They don't know any different. You didn't verify your work. And now all of a sudden, somebody upstairs is going to be totally embarrassed when they present this to somebody that knows something more. And,
or it goes to court.
Or it goes to court, is right. So the problem lies in the fact, though, the C-suite can't reverse backwards and blame you when they didn't train you on how to use the tools, how to understand the tools, navigate the tools to get everything you possibly can out of it, right? So it becomes a huge challenge, no doubt. So I think it's anybody that's dealing in this area is know before you go. So, but because I know it's been very challenging
that
for me.
That wasn't a question, but that's okay.
Yeah,
was there something you actually wanted to ask, Iris?
No, no. Actually,
that was one of those input things where there's no output.
No. She's just given so much information that she's not created questions. She's just given me more areas to think twice and 3 times and 4 times about when I dabble in AI. And if anything, I'd be wanting to come back in the need of and go, Iris, help me.
You can call me anytime.
So with that, kind of a great opportunity for us is kind of wind this show up because we are running out of time. And I do want to provide Iris the opportunity to have people reach out to her. Iris, how would you like people to reach out to you? Are they coming to you through LinkedIn? Are they coming to you directly? Are they contacting me and John? Is there something we can do to put you in front of people who would benefit from your insight, experience? And I do want to highlight that Iris offers training on AI use. This is what she's doing. She puts together programs and solutions for customized solutions or just generic ones. So
you mean I can't ask AI to train me on how to use AI?
You can try. And when that falls
My
short,
question to you is, how are you going to validate that the answer is correct? You might need an expert.
That's right.
Yeah. So anyone who has questions or wants to know about some training opportunities, you can feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. If you want to reach out to Rick and John here, yeah, you can definitely establish contact here as well. Thank you.
Is there anything else that you would like to discuss before we sign off, Mr. Farquhar?
No, I can't think of it. These have been very interesting and very enlightening. I've learned a bunch of new stuff here. Thank you, Iris. This has been very valuable. And it makes me think even more about when I want to use AI. And
I think it makes you you keep looking over here like there's this document and you're going, oh poop. You didn't send that yet, did you?
No, no, thank goodness I've got nothing like that. So I'm good there.
But my highlighter, quick.
It's interesting because I guess, I have clients who are looking for assistance, and my biggest fear is they're going to go to AI to create it. And it's like, that's not going to give you what you need. You need something that is unique to your operation. So it concerns me when they think that, oh, I'll just use AI to create this. Like you say, a driver's manual or, policy safe operating procedures. Like that scares the living hell out of me because you need to sit with somebody who knows what you need to have that comes out of that tool.
Yes.
AI is not necessarily the product to give you an answer to something that you don't already know. AI is a product that can phrase it and structure it and position it in a way that is useful for communicating to other parties, but you're the person that knows what's in there.
Correct.
Iris, anything from you before we go?
I think we barely dabbled beneath the surface of the water, but hopefully, there's a lot more that we can talk about, but hopefully this is a good way of thinking about or framing our thinking around AI and to make it to turn it from a liability into a defense mechanism or an asset. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for this discussion.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you. Thanks for joining us. It's been great. I suspect we got a few eyeballs going out in the audience. All right. So till the next time, take care. Thanks a lot for watching Compliance Clips, and hope you have a great day.